Okay, so I'm going to talk about three themes: servant leadership, empowering learners, and flipped classrooms. And I hope that by the end of the presentation, you will see the link between these three concepts. Now, the idea of servant leadership is actually a very old concept. In the Bible, you get a quotation from Jesus: "The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve." Aristotle said, "The essence of life is to serve others and do well." And as you've heard before, Robert Greenleaf is the leader of the modern concept of servant leadership. And he said, "Do those served grow as persons?" And my concept of empowerment is this idea of helping our students to grow. Now, how do we do this? In order to do this, the teacher should be a servant of the students, not the dominant person in the classroom in front of the lecture theatre, but be a servant. The students should be on top of the pyramid, and the teacher's job, the role, is to serve the students' needs. Servant leader should develop people by providing new learning opportunities. The teacher should work with the students rather than just giving them instructions, telling them what to do. Now, the characteristics of a teacher who is a servant leader, this has been said by other presenters, and it's also in my paper. If anyone wants a copy of my paper, you could please email me. Now, I want to pick on two things, two concepts: commitment to the growth of others and building community. That is, a servant leader is committed to helping students to grow by building a learning community where the students and the teacher are co-participants in the learning process. Not the teacher standing in front of the lecture theatre, dominating, spouting out knowledge. No, not that kind of thing, but be a community of learners. Now, there are 3 student evaluations of teachers who are servant leaders reported by Hayes, and a teacher who incorporates servant leadership has turned the class into a unique learning culture based on the highest levels of trust. The word trust is very important, trust between the teacher and the student. The teacher should learn to trust the student's capabilities, and the student will in turn gain confidence and do and achieve things which they know that the teacher expects them to achieve. There must be mutual respect and honesty. The teacher should engage the students, stimulate their interest so that there is a communication of ideas. And teachers who are servant leaders have an enormous influence on the lives of their students. Faculty view: the teacher who is a servant leader should develop active listening to the students, not only for what they actually speak, but also what they don't say, learn to look at their body language. And so communication, listening is part of communication skills. Be willing to actively engage with the students in a collaborative learning environment where not only the students learning from the teacher and also from each other, but also the teacher willing to learn from the students. Because we must recognize that when we walk into a class, there are some students who are actually more intelligent than us. We might have more subject knowledge, but just give them a little bit of knowledge, and they'll think of that knowledge in a creative way, in a way which we did not think of before. So over the years, I have learned so much from my students. The next is the concept of empowering learners. This is the concept of commitment to the growth of others. What is empowerment? It is giving opportunities for individuals to develop autonomy, choice, taking responsibility for their own learning, participate in the learning process. Not just us dishing out orders, instructing them, but make them participate in the decision-making process. Now, in the traditional lecture, traditional tutor-led seminars, we adopt a very teacher-centered approach. We prepare for our teaching and we tell the students what we know and expect them to be learning it. They are passive, okay? We think they are listening, but are they? We very rarely know whether they are. Who knows? They might be looking on Facebook, sending emails to other friends. So that is not the way to empower learners. The goal of the teacher, who is a servant leader, should be to step out of the instructional role and become a facilitator, not be a sage on the stage, but to be a guide on the side. Now, some guidelines for teachers who want to be student leaders and who want to empower their students. Provide lots of learning opportunities for students, not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom. So it's not just 2 hours once a week, but the learning should be continuous. That is why, in fact, e-learning helps a lot by putting module websites and making discussion forums available so that the students and the teachers can continue to discuss with each other what they've learned in the face-to-face environment. Creating a learning environment which is challenging to the student but also not threatening. Now, encourage the students to adopt a lifelong learning experience where they see learning as an enjoyable experience. We are teaching because we love our subjects. Infect the students with your enthusiasm for your subject, and they will become lifelong learners, just as we are. We are in the teaching profession because we fell in love with our subject, and we still want to learn our subject, update ourselves. So make sure that you infect your students with your love for the subject. Set high but attainable expectations and standards for students. When the students ask you a question, don't just give them the answer. Ask them a question, make them think, make them do research. Perhaps ask other students, do you know the answer? It is better that the answer comes from another student rather than from you. Bridge the gap between theory and practice and vice versa. Now, we all tend to spoon feed the students. We think if we care for the students, we have to make sure that they pass the assessments. So we do a lot of work, prepare a lot of revision notes, etc. to make sure that the students can answer those questions in the exam. But that's just spoon feeding. We are not encouraging them to be critical learners, which is what they will have to do when they go out into the outside world. The teacher is not there to give them the required information. If they become a lawyer, the clients come to them with a problem, they have to think for themselves what book to read. They can't run to the teacher. Make use of a variety of resources and techniques in the teaching practice. Incorporate diversity in all aspects of learning. Encourage research. Research is key to knowledge. How do us teachers prepare for our lectures? We do research. Likewise, encourage the students to do research. engage students in active learning. Establish a community of learners, not only to learn from the tutor, but to learn from each other. And in the community, the students not only engage in their own learning, they teach others. And really, teaching others is a very powerful way of learning. Research, doing presentations. Students should be encouraged to form a link between new ideas in the learning process and the existing ideas. Trust between student and teacher. Now, flipped classrooms. This is where you don't do the traditional lectures. Instead, the teacher pre-records the lecture he or she was hoping to give, puts them on the module website, asks the students to read the lecture beforehand, come to the class. When they come to the class, they discuss the students' understanding and analysis of the content. So the lecture becomes an interactive experience. And the seminar then could be developed into discussing the more difficult concepts. Now, in the flipped classroom, the student is in control of the lecture. The student can listen to the lecture whenever he or she likes, can listen to part of it, all of it, replay the lecture. Whereas in the 50-minute or 2-hour class lecture theatre, the teacher is in control. He wants to get through a mass of information in the time slot. He doesn't repeat what he said. Some students don't get it. They ask the teacher, what did you say 5 minutes ago? I haven't written it all down. Now, in East Anglia and Southampton universities, in the chemistry departments, they have put a lot of first-year lectures, pre-recorded lectures on the website, which are very popular with the students, but also this has not impacted on the lecture attendance. So the lecture slot becomes student-centered. And the lecturer uses the classroom in a variety of ways, students acting as teacher, engaging in problem solving, and encouraging students to do research. And the research into flipped classrooms has shown that the students are engaged, they enjoy the content of the course, and the performance has improved. Lecturers have to spend a lot of time in preparing for their classes. But, and some students, they prefer attending traditional lectures. Why? They don't have to do any preparation. They can come in, do what they like. The teacher won't know. They can go out. Their minds as blank as they were when they came in. Now, the teacher who becomes a servant leader is acting as a guide, empowers the students into developing into critical lifelong learners, becomes a more effective learning environment. Students are given the opportunity to become teachers. Students work at their own pace. This is very important. We can't, students are diverse. Some are slow learners, some are fast. We have to cater to their all needs. And there's an increased level of engagement, of performance. Students have a positive view of the flipped classroom as the learning is more personalized. Cooperative learning groups enable development of critical thinking criteria, critical thinking. And most important, there are students for whom English is not their first language. And for them, it is very useful to be able to listen to pre-recorded lectures rather than sitting in a classroom where they might not quite understand the lecturer's accent if they've only just come into the UK. And I end with Confucius, who said, Tell me, and I will forget. Tell me is the role of the traditional teacher, who is the instructor, who is wasting his or her time in the traditional lecture. Because the students, even if they're temporarily remembered, will forget. Show me, this is halfway house interactive lecture, may remember, but the best way is involve me, and I will understand. Take the students with you on their learning journey. You go with them, hand in hand, and they will learn, and you will learn from them. Thank you.